Welcome to the Strategic Project Leader, where we help you leverage strategic project management so you can achieve your goals. Now, here's your host, Fola Alabi.
Hello and welcome. Welcome to the Strategic Project Leader, where we help you achieve your goals and go further faster in business and beyond. That's right. We help you leverage project intelligence. That's where strategic project management intersects with business and life management to amplify your success. I'm your host, Fola Alabi, your business and transformational leadership expert. I am here to actually support you with my co host, Jay Franzi, a business leader. Jay, how are you today?
I am fabulous, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. Today is going to be awesome. It's definitely going to be great because we have a wonderful guest who's going to be walking us through something awesome as well. His name is Jonaed. He's the founder of NoDegree.com. He's a career coach as well. He's actually impacted so many lives in helping them transition and land their dream roles without a degree. Can we welcome Jonaed? How are you
Hey
doing
Sure. How are
today?
everyone.
you?
Hey Fola. Hey Jay.
How are you doing? Great to have you today. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. This is a bit early for me. I woke up at 2 p.m. yesterday, but
Ooh.
I'm super excited and full of energy.
Oh my goodness, have you got your coffee to get you going?
I don't drink coffee.
You know what?
Oh,
Neither do I, sir.
Yeah. This
Glad.
but somehow you get going either way. Okay, let's kind of get right into it. Hopefully, by the time the question starts coming in and all the juices starts flowing, it's gonna get you going. Just let us know in the comments as well where you're joining us from. That will definitely be great to know that. But without any further ado, the number one question is in landing your job, degree or no degree. This is like the word on the streets right now, right? We want to land our dream jobs. We want to, get promoted and all that. So I want to get your take, degree or no degree.
You know what I gotta lean to? I gotta lean towards no degree. Now, I'm gonna frame it a different way because people are like, degree or no degree. I'm gonna say skills and experience. Now, you may have a degree with those skills and experience. You may not have a degree or skills and experience. Because if you don't have a degree and you don't have the experience, you're not gonna get the job. And if you have a degree but don't have the experience or skills, even if you were to get the job, you're not going to be good at it. So you have to work towards building the skills and getting the experience that will get you the job and put you in a good place, especially for project management.
That's a good one. You spoke about the skills and experience. But it's almost like a chicken and an egg situation,
Yeah.
right? How can you land the job in the first place to get the experience or, to build up that skill set when you haven't even got a degree in the first place? How'd you get your foot through the door? How'd you start?
Yeah. So obviously, if you can work towards the PMP, you should do that. The PMP has two requirements, right? I forgot you need 3 years of experience, project management experience, and a degree, and sitting for passing the exam. But you can have 5 years of experience without a college degree and sit for the PMP. So just realize that. Think about it. College is 4 years. You need two. It takes 4 years to get that college degree. It takes 2 years to get the right experience for it. Now, there are some entry level certifications. I know people do well with the Google Project Management Certificate. There's the Certified Associate Project Manager, also CAPM or CAPM. These are things you can realistically get. Now, for people who are transitioning for other careers, they run into a chicken egg scenario. What I would recommend is volunteer. A lot of nonprofits hold events and they have ways that you can assist as a project manager or an assistant project manager. And that's the way that you can really break in.
Thank you for that. So pretty much what you're saying is skills and experience, get a certification, even if you can actually land going to do like a 4 year degree course in a university. Either way, you need something to get your foot through the door.
Yeah.
So in taking that path, when we think about a young professional who wants to land the six-figure career with in project management that we obviously want, how exactly do they start? Do they just go off and get a Google certifications, or as you said, just go off and get a volunteer role? So what are the steps, you know, or professional can actually take to create that path to success?
Yeah, I think the Google Project Management Certificate is a good way to start because you gain some knowledge about what it takes to be a good project manager and you gain some of the fundamentals so that when you volunteer, you have some skills and you have some backing. And the other thing is, I would really recommend networking and learning from others. I love podcasts, so listen to a podcast like this that's really focused on project management. Follow the people who come on the show as guests because a lot of them are content creators. A lot of them are on other podcasts where they're sharing insights. And so for those of you who lack experience, just realize that you can create your own experience. That's how you beat the chicken and egg scenario. I need a job to get experience, but I can't get a job without experience, so you create your own experience. And I've seen people successfully do that. And the other thing is, in your current role, take initiatives to manage projects.
Take initiative to manage projects. I love that piece because I believe that in every aspect of your life, we are pretty much managing projects. You can actually volunteer. You can leverage experience from your personal life, like building a home, or it could actually be a reno, or your wedding you actually had to plan, or you had to even plan a dinner banquet, whatever that is. But that's pretty interesting as well. Can they then take all of that and show up in front of a hiring leader and be seen as the right candidate over probably someone like me who has got all the letters next to my name and the experience as well? Because the key now is how can they shape and show their unique value add, as I always share, that will make a hiring leader pick the person without a degree. Probably they've got some certifications and set them apart from everybody else.
Now, if they're competing with you, I think they're going to lose out, right? You have a lot more experience. No, but on a serious note, a lot of times people want to sort of compete with the people who have 10 years experience. Don't compete for those roles. You got to first break yourself into the door so that they get to your level but they don't have the degree, because at your level, whether or not someone has a degree, if they have the PMP, they have the letters after their name and they have the experience, the degree doesn't matter. Like, if I need someone to manage a $50 million project, I'm not going to be like, oh, this college graduate, I'm going to have them manage it. No, they're going to be like, who has done this before? Who has managed maybe a $30 million project? Who has managed maybe a $40 million project? Who has managed something big? So, first, get your first experience out the way. Now, let's talk about when you're competing with someone earlier in your career. Do not focus on what you don't have, because the universe of what you don't have will always be bigger than the universe of what you have. Focus on what you do bring to the table, understand how it makes you unique, and understand how it makes you a great candidate for the job, and really differentiate yourself through your passions and your excitement.
Okay, let's take this a step back for just a minute, because there's a lot of good information here, and I agree with a lot of it. And don't get me wrong, I believe, like yourself, that a degree is not necessary. In most
Yeah.
cases these days, a degree is not necessary. But you happen to have one. And
Yeah.
you don't only have a degree, you have an advanced degree, and you have it from a very nice institution. So some people would think that's easy for you or Miss Fola with the letters behind her name to say that, oh, no, a degree doesn't matter. But how do you answer that question when you come highly educated?
Yeah, well, I would tell you I would make a terrible project manager. So even with the degree, if I were going to project management, select someone. So look, I got the degree before I found, like, I was already almost done with the master's by the time I founded the company. And I've worked with a lot of candidates who don't have college degrees, and I've worked with project managers who have the PMP without college degrees. And what ends up happening when they show their experience, people assume that they have the degree. It's a funny thing that they're like, oh, this person got the PMP, and it doesn't come up. And then maybe at the end, they'll be like, oh, you don't have a degree? I didn't know. So that's one thing that, yes, I got education. And then the thing for me is, like, school was easy and I was always a good student. I did have some classes that were tough in grad school, maybe a few classes here and there, but for the most part, school wasn't hard. But what I realized when I came outside of school, that the most important lessons I ever learned in life were learned outside the classroom. And the fact is, it's not like you graduate and you have all the knowledge. You still have to spend the rest of your life learning. And the fact is, after school, your learning is going to be more unstructured. You have to go dig it out. You have to learn on the job. You have to learn through mentors. You have to learn through reading books. And they have a statistic like 40% of college students never read a book after going to college. And I'm pretty sure the majority don't even read their textbooks. So just because someone has the education, and yes, I do have the education, does not mean I don't see the value in someone who does not have an education. And then let's take this thing out that you can be educated without a degree. Schools don't have a monopoly on education. Like someone who reads, I did a resume for someone who was in prison for 14 years. He read books all the time. He has read over 2,000 books. So is he not educated because he doesn't have a degree? Right? He's an executive coach for a lot of companies and people, and he manages conflict resolution. He is the best person, right? He knew how to manage conflicts in prison. He would run workshops in prison and get people who were on the two completely different ends of the spectrum and get them to understand and see their perspective. So again, it's one of those things that yes, we have a certain background, but that does not mean we don't see the value in others who don't have that background, because again, we can see to their actual skills and experience.
No, and that's a good point. And I work in a very large organization which has its hierarchy and the structure of leadership, but it also has a very large pool of entry level positions. And I oversee these teams that run this large pool. And that pool of people are always looking for ways to move up. And one of the things that I preach all the time is about informal education. We have formal education and we have informal education. You mentioned Google and the one certification you can get for project management, but I also mentioned programs like edX or Coursera that have programs from known institutions. You might not be able to get a degree. In some cases you can, but if you don't have the funds to back it, you might not be able to get that degree, but you can get a certification showing that you've studied that same material. Like you said, reading thousands of books, you get an education. Well, going through these courses, even if you're auditing these courses, you're still getting the education. So do you have any others like that that you could recommend?
Yeah, so just like you said, I love Coursera, I love edX. I would say check out podcasting is like one of my favorite mediums. It doesn't matter what you're doing. You can listen to a podcast while you're cooking. You can listen to a podcast while you're driving. You can listen to a podcast at the gym. I would say one of the most underrated ways, in addition to that, is following content creators. Because what ends up happening is a lot of content creators will curate resources for you, without you ever paying a dime. Look at the people that they engage with. Look at who they support. Sometimes you can even ask them for a call, like, hey, I've been listening to your podcast. I have a question. Who'd you recommend? I would say the fact is you just have to start going down the path, and you're going to keep on finding more resources. That's how I've always found resources. Like when I wanted to learn public speaking, I listened to a podcast on how to become a professional public speaker. Get involved in local things. Get involved in your community. I think the network and the networking will lead you to finding a mentor or finding a group of peers. I would say online communities are an extremely underrated resource. There are project management communities, or there are communities that help people get careers, with one of them being in project management. So these are other ways, because once you find a group of peers who are also working towards the same goal, that's a big thing. Because one of the things about university setting is you're with peers and all that. But the fact is, even for college graduates, once you get out, what do? Like, people go all in different directions. Online communities will really fulfill that gap.
Very nice. Do you have any shows that you recommend?
For what? For project management?
Well, yeah, you said you have shows, podcasts that you listen to always advance in your knowledge. So do you have any shows that you would recommend?
Yeah, so for podcasts, I mean, it really depends, because right now I'm listening to a podcasting about how to grow a podcast, right? So that's not necessarily helpful, but that's called Grow the
Well,
Show.
it actually is. It's very helpful.
So one thing I liked was there's a podcast called Marketing Speak, and that was very good for a lot of marketing topics and all that. And you go down the rabbit hole of search engine optimization and all that. I mean, I have a podcast called the No Degree Podcast, where I share the stories of people without college degrees. I would say also Twitter Spaces, and follow what I would see if I were want to get into project management. I would follow Fola and follow her around into the Twitter Spaces she speaks at. So because what you're going to realize is there are a lot of people who have the credentials, and they go speak, and they kind of go, when they listen into a Twitter Space, they listen in for a specific reason. It's because they're either trying to learn something, or they're either trying to verify the information. So if I sat in on a Twitter Space with Fola and I heard something, or I would say, hey, Fola, you were in this space with me. This person said X, Y, Z. Is that correct? Or do you have something? Do you have the correct answer? And I'm pretty sure she would answer.
Absolutely. When we talk about networking, we talk about connecting with the right resources, it sets you apart. And the beauty about one thing you actually just said is a lot of people at times also want to follow the bigger names, right? They want to see the account that's got like hundreds of thousands of followers. However, they're like some hidden germs who are out there creating great content. And just to go back a little bit, I want to share a little bit of a story about me as well. I think about my journey when I landed my first project management job. Actually, it was about 18 years ago, to be precise. I remember when I went to make that pivot because I was in customer service and I was actually doing that, but I knew that I wanted to make that move because I had the passion and I had the drive and I had a plan. And I always talk about my strap up method that I share with my audience as to how to get there. You walk through self assessment, the tactical research, you re engineer, you asset align, you plan, optimize, and project manage this particular step. But the beauty about this is, although I had a degree then, because my first degree is actually in philosophy, and people never really know that. When I landed that job, on my resume, I didn't even have that. Because first of all, I'm like, what does philosophy got to do with project management in the first place, right? It's like, I just need to just put together a resume and read, network and show up as much as I could to make sure that I was the best candidate for the job. And I remember throwing my resume out and I got an interview. I got in the interview session. Believe it or not, I almost froze to death. Think about a young, professional. The panel was about 10 people. I sat there and I'm like, really? Oh, the person introduced themselves like, oh yes, I'm the senior responsible owner because in England, rather than doing like the sponsor, we have the SRO. You know, I'm the one who created the pregnancy document. They say I'm like the testing analyst. I'm like, oh my goodness, they were like 10 people. They were like, all they was with the government. And I'm like, oh my goodness, at that time, I haven't even gotten my pre-primary designation as well, because in England it was actually Prince 2. I kind of read for it. And I just told myself, Fola, you're in for the ride, right? Just enjoy yourself, and that's okay. And I sat there and I asked him for a glass of water. I sat in there and then I started asking questions. I'm like, whatever, let's just have fun. That was the fastest interview turnaround I ever had. I remember getting out before I got to Charing Cross Station in London. I got a call that I got the job.
Wow.
I'm telling you, it was unbelievable. You know what I mean? So there's also something about like self confidence because even when I told them then that I was just like reading for my Prince 2 designation at that time, they really didn't believe that. But I was prepared above everything else. I did my homework, and because I probably felt that I wasn't going to get the job anyway, I was even more relaxed, right? I'm like, whatever, right? What exactly am I going to say that these guys who have been in the game for like 30, 40 years haven't actually heard before? But just preparation, right, sets you apart. They said when preparation meets opportunity, magic happens. So it's just a piece that I want to pretty much encourage someone who's actually listening out there, right? You may be thinking about making that change, creating that transition. Preparation, reading, connecting with the right people will definitely make it happen. What exactly is your take on that,
Yeah. I mean, I'll come back with the question. So think about two candidates. One has listened to 30 plus episodes of Management Podcast, the other hasn't. Who are you going to focus on? Who would you kind of give, right? I know who I would choose. And I love that. I love how it was more focused on the preparation because we're going back. You had a philosophy degree. How many philosophy people with philosophy degrees become project managers? And yes, you learn how to think, you learn how to read, but you don't necessarily learn the core fundamentals of project management. And I love it. It just really shows that you didn't show the degree. You went in there. You were like, hey, you know what? I'm just gonna do my best. I don't have it. And that's a funny thing. Sometimes people, when they take that pressure off themselves, they realize that, hey, I can do good. And honestly, 10 people sounds brutal, but I'm glad if anybody could do it, it's you, Fola.
No, I'm telling you, it was unbelievable. Seriously. And that was like one of the toughest interviews I've ever had. Think about it, right? And they're like old men, right? The first person like said I kind of had like 30 years of experience, delivering multi million pounds infrastructure across the whole of Europe. And I'm like, really? I just sat there like, okay, let's get it on. I just kind of spoke my mind in rather than even answering the questions. I was like, preferring solutions. I'm like, oh, I could already see the holes in there. It was like a major IT transformation program for the Department for Transport. I'm like, well, how come you guys have never thought about this and all that? So it was like, okay, what has this girl got to say? But without a doubt, like preparation and just building confidence, it's one piece that sets you apart. And today I can obviously say that it doesn't matter, who the person is and what the content is. I try to be totally relentless to ensure that I get results, which is great. But taking that a step further now, when we show up and we know we want to actually then move on, we've built our confidence, we've tried to, put it together. How can we then build that resume that can attract not just the right hiring manager, but probably even go through the ATS system? I think that's what it's called, right? The
Yeah,
computer
the
system.
applicant tracking system. I mean, there are
That's
many
right.
different softwares. There's like, now I forgot. I know there's like Workday is a common one, iSims. I forgot what I use, but whatever. I use a system, and the thing is for the ATS, you have to realize that companies get a lot of applicants, right? They can get anywhere from 50 to 500 plus applications, and they have limited time. And a lot of times the sourcers or the recruiters are not people who are project managers themselves. So they kind of match it against the job description, and the computer matches it against the job description. When I recruited, it would rank applicants from a 1 to 5. Now, here's the thing: if I get 10 applications, I can look at all of them. If I get 500, and I also have to recruit for 20 to 40 jobs, that's different. Some recruiters say they look at all of them. Majority don't. That's just the truth, right? You'll find one recruiter on LinkedIn saying, I look at every application. Cool. The majority don't. Now, if you're a recruiter, are you going to spend your time looking at the ones and twos, or are you going to spend the majority of your time looking at the threes, fours, and fives? And here's the other thing. If you're applying for project management and you don't have you don't have the word budget, you don't have the word project, you don't have the word project management on your resume, you're just going to rank lower, because how do you kind of do that without having some of those words? So what I would tell people is formatting is very important. A lot of people come to me with these fancy formats that look beautiful with their photos, and I tell them, on my end, I see a plain text file. Your photo doesn't appear. These other things may not appear. It looks very different. So just have a single column, and I don't put any underlines, no italics. It's a very simple but clean format. And so many people focus on formatting, but it's like, have a simple format, focus on the content, right? After you get a simple format, focus on the content. So what you did, the context in which you did it, and the results you achieved. So manage, $300,000 infrastructure improvement project with 2 assistant coordinators, and then comma, this is a simple line, reducing, HR processes by 43% or something like that. Now what I tell people is, you don't have to go into all the details of how you did it. That's the interview, because now I know what you did, what you achieved. I want to know how you did it. That's it. So most people go way too complicated and all that stuff. I tell people resumes are skimmed. They're not read. First, and the reason is, a lot of recruiters, I see so many resumes, they're just garbage. It's just lists like a bunch of job responsibilities. To make the resume yours is add in the numbers. So people will say, I manage a large budget. What's a large budget? Large budget to me may be like a tiny budget to you. Give a number, because a $2 million budget is a $2 million budget. They'll say they train people. How many people did you train? Whether you're in customer service, I've done a lot of customer service resumes. How many calls do you answer a day? How many inquiries? What's your satisfaction rate? Do you answer calls? Do you get all your calls done within under an average of, 6 minutes? Do you handle the most calls? Do you handle the escalations and all that? So these are things that you really have to do. And it's like the most simple thing, but it already puts you in the top 10% of resumes. That even if you have less experience, I've done resumes for people who have less experience, who've gotten over people with higher experience, and it's because of that. And the reason is that in interviews, there's a science to interviewing, but a lot of people don't know the science. A lot of people, they don't know the proper way to interview. They just kind of like, hey, Fola, you have an interview at 2 p.m. And for the most part, most people just ask what they want and they evaluate answers how they want. There's actually a science and questions you're supposed to ask, questions you're not supposed to ask, and how you're supposed to evaluate it. The fact is, very few people even do that. So when you have a good resume, it gives your interviewer anchor points. If I see that you saved $2 million, I'm gonna ask you, Fola, how did you save $2 million? So the other reason of having a good resume is it gives the interviewer questions to ask you. Those questions are your highlights, so then you'll give an answer of your highlights and you look good. So it's like a win-win scenario.
No, that's very good. And a couple things you talked about there. I always recommend people have two resumes, one for the ATS system and then one you hand when you get there in person.
Yeah,
So that way you can have it a little bit more graphically pleasing. But again, I'd never recommend anybody go ahead and put a photo or anything like that on a
yeah.
resume for multiple reasons. But you're giving a lot of advice, and I know you're a coach. So when somebody comes to you, what's the first steps you take when approaching a new client?
Well, first, someone comes to me, what I've realized is I haven't got success with all the clients I've ever got, right? Any coach who says that is lying. Or they filter their people. One thing I've learned is if someone does not trust me, I can't I can't get results with them. I've worked with people who don't trust me. What ends up happening is sometimes at the end, I work on an honor system, so you pay half up front, half at the end. I've had people not pay me, and what I've realized is these people were in the beginning, they were ones who were very hesitant to trust me, so I can't get results with these people. The other thing is when someone doesn't trust me, they won't necessarily follow the advice I give. They'll have issues like that. And the other times when someone doesn't trust you, it actually is a reflection on themselves, because the reason they don't trust you is because they're the person who would cheat someone else or not do things properly. So that's one thing I find it's okay to ask questions like, hey, how do you work? It's okay to that. But when someone really starts digging in, like, how do I know you're going to get me results in that? And the thing is, I have 180 reviews on LinkedIn, right? In my initial 15-minute calls, I'll already give them advice. I've landed people jobs in 15 minutes. I'm like, hey, you know what? Remove this, add these things. Boom, you're good to go. So if someone still needs more because they're like, oh, you weren't a project manager, oh, you weren't that, I don't have something they're looking for, and I will never have the thing they're looking for. So even if I work with them, they're just not going to listen to me. They're not going to trust me. So that's one thing I look for. The other thing I look for, and I tell people, like, are you willing to put in the time, right? I'm not a magician. If I do your resume, you can't apply to one job. I meet people, they're like, hey, how many jobs do you apply? Oh, 2 a week. I was like, look, sometimes by the time a job is posted online, you may not have a shot. They may be posting it for an internal promotion. They may have someone in mind. They may have filled the position. Who knows? Right? It's like there is a numbers game component, right? You have to put in the work. That even the best even Fola applying to jobs, she's still gonna get rejected despite being very qualified.
Nobody rejects Fola.
Yeah. Hopefully, I mean, smart people don't, but not everyone's smart. And it's those types of things, because I've seen some hiring managers who are way too specific. They're like, oh, I need someone who's managed an $11 million budget. You managed a 10.99, but I'm not sure if you can handle 11. And I've seen like really details like that. A lot of people don't realize like hiring managers can be so picky to the point that they jeopardize the future of their department. And it's happened time and time again. So I will tell people, please look at my reviews. Let me see your resume. I'll give you 15 minutes of advice. If you feel we have a good connection, then we'll go. And I'm getting better about rejecting people. I've been getting better about saying, hey, I don't think we're a good fit. I don't think I could deliver the results you want. Please, feel free to go someone else. I've had someone come to me. I had like 180 reviews. I've gotten people into Google. He was like, well, I'm not seeing that you got someone into this analytic position at Google. He's like, can you find me a review? I was like, dude, I'm not going to come through my reviews to find a review that satisfies you. If you want to do research on me, Google me, go read through all the reviews. But at some point, I have some people who look at 2 reviews and off the call, they're like, let's work together. And I find that those are the people I get the best results for.
I'm trying to find a way to reject my wife. Miss Fola, my friend. Let's take this home. How can we apply this in our personal lives?
Oh my goodness. Thank you for that, Jay. So when it comes to everything that we do, I am a super fan of the fact that we can apply this, in business and beyond in our personal life. And thank you for that question, Jay. So when I think about no degree, right? How can we create that life and amplify success, even in our personal life. The question is, whoever goes out to get a degree or get education to make their personal life even better? Probably no one. Is there anyone who probably went and had formal education to say, I want to create a better life, and so I'm going to learn how to treat my spouse better or treat my kids better? This actually applies. The key is everything that we want to achieve, especially when we look at project management as it is, we need to be determined to take the steps further and see our life as one big project. And how can we now become intentional? We know we spoke about skills and experience, right? How are we going to upskill ourselves so that we can become better? Because I never see success in your business or your career as success. You need to be able to translate that also in your personal life. So without a degree, without education, without, upscaling your skill sets, you can never really achieve that um, Nevada or whatever it is that you definitely want. So I want you to know that listen to podcasts, getting information, self-assessing yourself every day to understand where exactly am I? What can I do? What plans can I create that can upskill me to create a better life at home? That is your challenge, right? I want you to go back to there and think about it. It's a self-assessment. What exactly can I actually do? What can I actually take? That it doesn't mean that it's going to be perfect, but you're going to be intentional about this and say, I am going to start listening to one particular podcast. And yes, for me, it's about leveraging your project management skill even beyond just landing the job. You can use that in your personal life as well. You don't need to go off and pay thousands of dollars and get another degree for that. Just listening, learning, and be determined to become your best self. You can actually achieve that. Did I answer your question, Jay?
Of course you did, my friend.
Oh, awesome, awesome. That's actually great. For you, Jamal, what exactly would be like of your final thoughts, your final words for me? 'Cause for me, again, with my project management mindset and the way I think, what would be like the overall, like three key steps, a takeaway? So I haven't got a degree, for instance, and I want to land my next job in the next 3 to 6 months. Where do I start? What are the three things I need to do to take that away?
So first, leverage the skills and experience you already have, because a lot of times people are project managers well before they have the title, right? They're the organizers. They're the ones who take initiative. They're the ones make sure that, hey, even the lunch that we cater, did I send all the meeting invites? Did I order the right food? Am I ahead of time? These are people managing projects in some capacity. So understand what you already bring to the table, because that will help you do the next step of plan. What am I missing, and what do I need to get, what do I need to do to get myself to the next level? Then whatever you're missing, fill the gap, whether it's a certificate, whether it's creating your own experience, whether it's networking and meeting the right people and filling the knowledge gap. And I think that's like a simple 3-step solution. And I find so many people forget step 1. A lot of people think they don't bring anything to the table, and if you think that, you're going to think that, hey, I need to do everything. But that's not the case. Figure out what you already bring to the table. Be aware enough to understand what you have and what you don't have. And then take an action plan and fill in the gaps.
Awesome. I think that's great. I always talk about, the self-assessment thing that, I said a few seconds ago. When you understand what your strengths are, when you understand what opportunities you can actually create from those strengths, you are able to understand where are those areas that I can, become a rock star. Because when you're operating from a place of strength, you already have an upper hand. In every single thing you do, we are already executing and managing projects one way or the other. It's all about the leverage. So, where can people actually find you?
So I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. You search up my name, Jonaed Iqbal, Jonaed, last name Iqbal. I'll probably be in the show notes. I'm active on Twitter, so it's no degree DOTCOM. I held a lot of Twitter spaces, or check out the podcast where I interview people without college degrees, have them share their stories. I've had all types of stories of people without degrees. Now, one thing I'll tell you, that just because you don't have a degree does not mean you don't have to put in work. You still have to put in work, but realize that putting in the right amount of work, networking, leveraging your skills will really take you far.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And my friend Jay, where can everyone find you too?
At the bar, my friend. I mean, jfrenzy.com.
I know jfrenzy.com. It's definitely been awesome having you. I wish we could go further, but this is just a nice teaser. We're definitely gonna have you come back again to share great insights. I want to leave you with this. I say, are you ready to strap up? I say self-assessment. Assess yourself, do some tactical research, understand where exactly you want to be, do some realignment, a gap analysis, and then asset realign. Create a plan, optimize, and project manage what you need to achieve. It's pretty easy. I want to say thank you so much for joining us today for this episode. It's been fun. If you found any value in this, definitely tell someone about it because I know there's someone who would definitely benefit from this. So thank you, Patrick, everyone who joined us live. It's been great. And obviously, you can actually just hit that subscribe button so that you will not miss out on any of the great content that we share and you will be the first to know when we release all of this. I want you to know that you are your life's project manager and you are the best product you can ever work on. Be intentional, take steps every single day to create not just the career, the business, but the life you crave. You have got this. Once again, thank you so much and have yourself a wonderful day. Bye bye for now.